The first thing I noticed was the lighting, too warm. Too flattering. It softened everything: the banquet hall, the gold tablecloths, the polished metals on my father's chest, even the lines around his eyes. It was his retirement dinner, thrown by former colleagues and men who still called him Sir, even though the title had technically expired that morning. He insisted I attend in uniform. "People should see what you've become," he'd said on the phone, his voice careful, almost proud. "It reflects well." I knew what that meant. I was not the guest of honor. I was proof of legacy. I stood near the back at first, posture straight out of habit, hands folded lightly behind me. Conversations drifted my way in fragments. "That's his daughter." "No, really. She looks to that." Rank sits differently on a woman. It's either doubted or mythologized. Rarely just accepted. My father took the stage after dessert. He looked relaxed, expansive. The way men look when they are certain the room belongs to them. He spoke about discipline, loyalty, sacrifice. The crowd nodded at familiar phrases. Then he gestured toward me. "And of course, my daughter." He smiled in my direction, and dozens of heads turned. "She tells people she's a general now." A few chuckles. Light, harmless, he raised his glass. "If my daughter's a general, then I'm a ballerina." The room erupted. It wasn't cruel laughter. That would have been easier. It was delighted laughter. Shared. Social, a joke landing exactly where it was meant to. I felt the shift immediately, not in rank, but in atmosphere. In that moment I wasn't an officer with 27 years of service. I was a daughter indulgent of fratasy. A child playing dress up. I've lived through worse things than laughter. I've commanded evacuations under fire. I've signed letters that changed families forever. But humiliation from a parent doesn't strike the same place. It doesn't bruise the ego. It unsettles the foundation. I didn't move. Didn't react. My face remained neutral, a skill I learned long before I ever wore a uniform. He continued speaking, unaware, or perhaps aware and comfortable, that the room had chosen its version of me. I could have corrected him. Clarified my appointment. Quoted the official commission. But authority, argued, is authority weakened. And besides, he wasn't questioning my rank. He was protecting his own narrative. Then the doors opened. Not dramatically. Not theatrically. They opened with purpose. 2 officers entered first, scanning the room. Behind them, 3 more, formal uniforms. No confusion in their posture. The sound of their boots on polished floor cut through the lingering laughter. My father faltered mid-sentence. One of the officers spotted me immediately. His expression shifted: recognition, urgency, restraint. He crossed the room quickly and stopped 2 steps in front of me. "Ma'am." "Ma?" Not loudly, but Karoom fell into an abrupt, heavy quiet. He saluted, the others followed, 5 uniforms. 5 salutes. All directed at me. I returned it automatically. "There's been an incident at North Ridge," he said, voice controlled. "Communications blackout. We need authorization for immediate mobilization. They requested you directly. There are moments when life divides cleanly, before and after." This was not dramatic, it was procedural. But it was unmistakable. I felt every eye in the room recalibrating. I asked 2 questions. Short. Precise. He answered. I gave 3 instructions, specific names, clear chain of command. My voice was steady, measured, not raised. No one in the room laughed. I stepped aside with them for 30 seconds, 30, maybe 40. Confirming coordinates and authorizations. My mind moved the way it always does in crisis, compartmentalized, efficient. The banquet hall disappeared. The gold tablecloth ceased to exist. When I turned back, the room was frozen in a kind of collective realization. My father stood at the podium. Glass still in hand. He looked smaller. Not humiliated. Just displaced. I walked toward him because that was the path to the exit. Not because I needed to. We stopped a few feet apart. Up close, I could see something in his face I hadn't seen before. Not anger, not pride. Something closer to confusion. "I'll need to leave," I said quietly. He nodded, no apology. None offered by me either. There are reckonings that happen through confrontation. And there are those that happen through demonstration. As I turned to go, I heard someone at a nearby table whisper, "She really is." Not admiration. Not disbelief. Just correction. The doors closed behind us as I stepped into the corridor with the officers. The air felt cooler there. Real transport is waiting, ma'am. One of them said. I nodded and kept walking. Inside the vehicle, as we pulled away, I allowed myself one private exhale. I didn't feel victorious. That would have required anger. What I felt was clarity. For years I'd balanced two identities. The daughter who minimized herself to keep peace, and the officer who couldn't afford to shrink. I'd told myself they could coexist. Tonight proved they couldn't. The authority in that room hadn't been granted by applause. It hadn't been defended with argument. It had simply functioned when required. That's the difference between performance and command. I thought about my father standing at that podium, recalculating. I didn't hate him. I understood him more than I wanted to. Some men struggle when the narrative they built for them. But understanding does not require submission. My phone vibrated with incoming updates from North Ridge. I shifted back into focus, reviewing data. Issuing follow-up instructions. Work does not pause for personal revelations. As the base lights came into view ahead, I realized something subtle but permanent had changed. I no longer needed him to say the words. The room had seen. He had seen. And I had finally stopped waiting.